On this edition of Interesting People, meet a man who's a father, husband, grandfather, cataract surgeon, cornea specialist, avid mountain climber, bungee jumper, and tennis star. Dr. Geoff Tabin has performed tens of thousands of cataract surgeries. Cataracts are the leading cause of blindness worldwide. Dr. Tabin is the co-founder of the Himalayan Cataract Project and is doing amazing work in Africa, restoring sight to the blind. I'm so excited to share Dr. Tabin's story with you today. And by the way, Dr. Tabin is my cataract surgeon. He recently performed cataract surgery on both of my eyes, and I'm seeing better now than I've ever seen in my life. For me, it's nothing short of a miracle. Now, please join me in welcoming to our program today, Dr. Geoff Tabin. Well, Geoff, I'd like to thank you for taking time to meet with me today. I know you have a very busy schedule, so I really appreciate this opportunity. To say that your life was interesting, I believe would be a great understatement. How would you define your life today?
Life is good. I'm doing more or less what I want to be doing. My focus really for the last 20 years has been to try and develop and improve eye care in some of the poorest places around. And I just got back from Nepal, where our programs really reached a state of maturity. And the quality of eye care in Nepal is getting to be really good. And where you have it, when I started 20 years ago, it was bad. There was a backlog of around 200,000 blind people, 60,000 new people going blind every year just from cataracts, no care for really any condition beyond cataracts. And now the quality of cataract surgery in Nepal is pretty much the same as what we have in America. So I've got a little bit of satisfaction that I've been part of doing something really good. I've got an amazing partner in Nepal and had some great young doctors. And my now current focus is really expanding our successful program from Nepal and using that as a model to try and change eye care, particularly in Africa. And there are enough challenges in Africa that I won't be bored, and it'll keep me occupied for the rest of my working years. So I'm really in a pretty good place. I've got a wonderful eye center here at the University of Utah and great partners here. And I love taking care of patients in America and taking care of patients in Utah. I've been really lucky in being able to come close to success in a few, and even luckier in keeping on having bigger dreams and trying to do a little bit more.
When you were a youngster, did you envision all of this?
I've always sort of looked at life as having these kind of romantic quests. Even when I was a teenager, I used to, read sort of Don Quixote type characters who were flailing at the windmills of life, were the people I looked up to. And I used to read about the adventurer explorers, people trying to reach and understand the last uncharted places and blank spots on the maps of the world. And then in climbing, having sort of big goals and challenges and these kind of romantic quests.
Now, I've heard things said, correct me if I'm wrong, but you're one of several people that have climbed every major mountain peak in all 7 continents. Is that true?
Yeah, but that's sort of a silly little throwaway thing. I was the 4th person to climb to the highest point in all 7 continents, but that's not really a great accomplishment. It's just sort of a nice little thing that when you're giving a slideshow and you want a university mountaineering club to hire you to give a slideshow, it's a nice little package. I just happened to have been asked to go as a guide to Antarctica, which is very hard to get to. It's very cold, and there are a lot of unique challenges to getting to and climbing the highest mountain in Antarctica. And I got paid as a mountain guide and doctor to do that. And I climbed Everest.
Is that 30,000 feet?
29,028. And so I had climbed 6 of the 7 when all of a sudden it became a really big deal and people were publicizing I'm the first to climb the highest on all 7 continents. So the only one I went and did specifically to climb the highest on the continent was Mount Elbrus in the Soviet Caucasus. And so for me, a lot of the early climbs that I did where I went beyond what I thought were my limits are the ones that are really memorable to me. And of those sort of 7 summits, Irian Jaya, New Guinea, I was just 22, and we went, it was kind of a crazy adventure just getting to the mountain. And then I was with a team that made the first ascent of the east face of Mount Everest in 1983. The rest of the, sort of 7 summits are less, personally memorable. And I have so many, transforming climbs that are not really noteworthy to anyone, but really just to me, where, myself and one partner went off and bit off a little more than we probably could have chewed or should have been chewing at the time, and somehow got through.
Are you afraid of dying? Do you have a fear of death?
I think everyone has a little bit of a fear of death, but I have more of a fear of not maximizing life. There's so much I want to accomplish still in life, and so much I want to do changing eye care in Africa. I don't think about, I might die. As close as I've come to dying was probably, when I was 16 and had my driver's license for a month and went speeding around a car in a snowstorm to go to watch the Waukegan basketball game. And I've had, I'm very lucky I survived my teens. Very lucky I survived my 20s. Very lucky I survived my 30s.
Approximately how many cataract surgeries do you think you've performed?
I've personally done somewhere between 30 and 50,000. But, Dr. Ruit has done over 100,000. We have another doctor that's trained with me named Bidya Pant, who's done over 100,000.
I think I know the answer to this question, but I want to ask it anyway. Do you consider yourself a miracle worker?
No. But I do consider myself a little bit of a facilitator. And I've been very, very lucky with some of the young doctors, both in America and internationally, who've I've been lucky to work with, who've sort of chosen to try and work with me. And we've been able to create some really good successes together. It was while I was working as a doctor in Nepal that I saw the miracle of cataract surgery. And it was a wow moment. I wouldn't say it was a spiritual moment. It was a wow, how come this isn't being taken care of? This is the most amazing thing I've ever seen. People going from totally blind, unable to see the shadow of a hand move in front of their face, to seeing perfectly. And it can be done. And started looking at the statistics of 20 million people were completely blind from treatable cataracts. Cataract surgery really is one of the few real miracles we can do in medicine. So maybe in some ways, I think anyone who's doing cataract surgery and on a totally blind person, to some extent is creating a miracle in their life.
How does the success you've had overseas compare to the success you've had in the States?
For me, the successes we've had overseas are, in the long run, a little more rewarding. When I go to Ethiopia, these are people who would die blind if we didn't come. And we've been able to create, or have been part of, a movement that's been able to create ongoing care in some remote areas that would have had no care.
When you go to bed at night and you lay your head on your pillow, do you ever think, wow?
I'm not that introspective. I don't really look at myself, except that what can I do to do things a little better tomorrow? Or what can I do to do the best I can today? I don't really see myself in any context or try to compare myself with anything. I've been really pretty fortunate to be able to do mostly what I want to do. And people hear me talking about, well, we had this experience in Nigeria, and then after that we went and climbed this thing in Mali, and then I'm going to Nepal in 2 weeks, and this is where we're going to go. That's just what I do. And so to me, that's kind of all normal. My dad kind of had the attitude that if you do the best you can today and just focus on today, then tomorrow will happen. If you worry about tomorrow, then you're not going to accomplish anything today, and you won't be any better off tomorrow.
How would you define success?
I think success, it's a tough term to define, but I think success is feeling content. And I think, looking in a larger sense of what's a successful life, I think it's someone who's been able to leave the world a slightly better place than they found it. And I've been very fortunate to be in a position and sort of success has been kind of laid out for me because I've been, given the training and education to be able to, spread a fairly useful skill that makes a lot of people's lives nicer. And in the developing world in particular, when you go blind, the life expectancy is less than a third that of health and age-matched peers. And so it's also been able to, help restore life to a lot of people.
What would you do if you couldn't be an eye surgeon?
When I was younger, I thought I would be sort of a combination of a mountain guide and a high school teacher.
Do you ever consider yourself a workaholic?
No. If anything, I'm more of a funaholic. And fortunately, I find that seeing patients and doing surgery are fun.
What's the most rewarding part of your job?
There's so much. I think, it's really the interaction with the patients and, seeing improvement in patients' lives. But there's also, it's a nice sort of small little satisfaction when I finish the end of a really well-performed cataract surgery or a well-performed corneal transplant.
What is a normal day like in the life of Geoff Tabin?
I'm not sure there is such a thing.
So when do you have time for Geoff?
Well, I think of all my time as for myself. Because that's what I choose to do. So today, I was seeing patients nonstop from 8 in the morning until we started our interview. But that's what I choose to do, and that's my time. I actually like what I do. There's some things I don't like about, which I call part of a job, a lot of the charting and paperwork and insurance and some of those things I don't really like. But I actually really like talking to patients. I like talking to people, finding out about their lives. And I like the concept that I'm doing something small that can help them. Even if they just have an itchy eye because it's a little bit dry and I just need to give them artificial teardrops. I really enjoy, being someone's doctor. And then I really enjoy the art and craft of the technical aspects of the surgery.
Time management. How do you do it all?
It's kind of a combination, and I think that's one of the things I feel that I don't do as well as I'd like is time management. Things like returning phone calls, returning emails, small things, remembering to, call a friend on their birthday. I wish I did a little bit better. I tend to get very behind. I overschedule a lot. I'm kind of a joke in the tennis community around Park City. Everyone likes to play with me at 6 in the morning. Nobody likes to play with me at 6 at night because they know that if I make plans to play at 6 at night, I'm likely to show up at 6:20 or 6:30. And I try to do the best I can with every moment. So it's much better to be my 8 o'clock patient than my 11 o'clock patient. I think you were an 11:30, 11 o'clock appointment today, and I got to see you about 1. And so, but if somebody has a question and I haven't explained it well enough, I try to stay, I'm just in the moment with that patient, and I'll have, technicians and schedulers saying, Dr. Tabin, you have to move on. Your next patient's waiting. But I don't like to leave the first patient until it's done. Similarly, if I'm doing a cataract surgery, I don't rush to get to the next cataract. My whole life is what I'm doing now. And so living your life focusing so much on what you're doing now, it's not as good to make plans until somebody will be at their house for dinner at 7. The one thing that I find is rushing between when I finish what I'm doing, and right now I'm doing an interview with you. And that's what I'm doing. Now, it's been hard for us to schedule the interview. It's hard for me to have made time for the interview. But when I'm doing the interview with you, that's what I'm doing.
So you live in the moment.
And I'm not, when we finish our interview, then I'm going to be trying to get out as many emails as I can. And there was somebody I talked to about that I'd be done with the interview at 2:30, and we go rock climbing at 3. And so then that's the next thing that, that I ended up having planned. And I planned to rock climb at 3, but then again, I'm supposed to be at a dinner party at 6:30. And so I can't really show up late to to go climbing at 3, and I end up starting to climb at 4, and I can't tell my partner, well, I've got to quit at 6:15 because I've got to be at a dinner party, and I'm going to be the only person, everyone's going to be all, showered and shaved for the dinner party, and I'm going to come in, sweaty from climbing.
Tell me what kind of music you like.
I like the blues. I like jazz.
Any favorite artists?
Lots. I used to go a lot in the south side of Chicago and listen to sort of, Muddy Waters and Willie Dixon, Otis Spann, Junior Wells, Buddy Guy, and that sort of whole genre. Now I like Keb Mo and Robert Cray. I always loved B.B. King. I loved Miles Davis. I just listen to a bit of the bebop stuff. Currently I listen to a lot of sort of Michael Franti. I like Pharrell Williams' song Happy. It's song currently runs through my head a lot. And then I like classical music.
How about a favorite movie or two?
I like movies that have more character development. I still love the sort of Casablanca, the Shawshank Redemption.
Forrest Gump?
I love Forrest Gump. And actually in my life, I really like Tom Hanks. In my life, the two people who I think of who've had lives similar to mine in some ways, one was Peter Matheson, and then Forrest Gump. I've kind of been sort of in the right place at the right time and had a little bit of sort of luck and, serendipity. And I think a lot of my way of living is very similar to Forrest Gump.
How old do you want to live to? As long as you can?
I'd like to live as long as, everything's working well. My parents fortunately remained really alert and mentally great until they died. And as long as I'm alert and mentally great, I want to keep living.
Where do you see yourself in 10 years?
I see myself in 10 years doing just what I'm doing. Sometimes I think maybe I'd like to just move to Africa and just work in one hospital and work and really do what my hero that I mentioned, Bidya Pant, who is in Nepal, the one who has the 70 surgeries a day, and just have a very peaceful, focused life and have a training center and teach and not try and coordinate Africa, Asia, patients in America, and try to do all the moving parts.
What do you want your family to say and to remember about you someday when you're gone?
Yeah, I love them. And, it's just one of the things that maybe, I've sacrificed a little bit, because I'm gone a little too much. And I'm gone from the house too much even when I'm home in Utah. And I want my kids to be happy and settled in what they do, and know that I love them.